Hello, Lauren.
Hello, Natalie.
Yes,
Bonjour. Are
bonjour.
you in France now, or are you in
Oh no,
Israel?
Jerusalem,
Okay,
Israel. That's where I live for the
but you
past
just
15
moved into a
years.
new home, right?
I did,
Well,
yeah.
Mazal tov on that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being our guest for the
Thank you.
Jewish Women Entrepreneurs podcast, where we speak about entrepreneurship, women, and Jewish identity. And I'm first going to introduce you to our listeners, and then we're
Sounds
going
good.
to dive in straight into our topics and talk about everything we like. So let's talk about you, Lauren. So
Okay.
Lauren is an inspired speaker. You bring passion and insight to the multitude of topics on which you speak, ranging from complex business immigration matters to finding balance as a single mompreneur and related self-growth topics. Lauren is also a very community-oriented and philanthropic. She recently established Find My Silver Lining, a nonprofit whose goal is to inspire others to persevere through challenging times and focus on the bright side as they strive to lead fulfilling lives. After spending several years working as corporate counsel, Lauren decided to combine her legal knowledge and business acumen and open her own company called eCounsel Inc. This company offers concierge turnkey business immigration services, ranging from professional business plans to comprehensive project coordination for all types of business visas. Lauren and her team help businesses raise capital, assist franchisees seeking additional franchisees, particularly in the form of foreign investors, and work with foreign investors seeking access to the US markets. Wow, very impressive, Lauren. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
accepting this interview. I'm so excited. So,
Thank
I
you
want
for
to tell
having
you
me. Yeah.
what really struck my attention when I first read your bio, and it could be that it's not the first thing that everyone is going to that is going to resonate with everyone. But for me, it was the single mompreneur thing that actually resonated, and I think it's not a secret that I've been a single mom for many years.
I didn't
And
actually know that, but now I do.
now you do. Well, for everyone who doesn't know, but also I had actually made the choice of putting my business on hold to raise my two kids because I thought that I couldn't juggle it all. But it sounds like you have the secret formula to do it. So I would love for you to tell us.
Oh boy.
Oh boy!
Oh boy. Well,
Wow.
let me just tell you that I did not get the Mother of the Year prize over the past year and a half. So, and I just got over COVID despite being vaccinated. And my son, thank God, he's 10 and a half, thank God, did not get it. He
Wow.
walked around with a mask and holding his breath all the time. The kid is hysterical, but I have to give him credit because he stayed healthy. And I was using gloves and a mask. But during the pandemic, for the first, we were homeschooling, I was not getting any awards for Mother of the Year or
Well,
Balancing Act
I
of the Year or any.
I don't think that any mom really got the mom of the year during
Well,
COVID. I think just being a mom is already getting
that's
the mom of the
right.
year.
And if they got it, they need to come and give me lessons for sure. So
Exactly.
it's crazy. It's crazy. I think for me, it wasn't that I didn't have a choice because I I as a single mom, I didn't have the financial wherewithal at the time to not work. And plus, on top of that, I love what I do. I really, really love what I do. Now, it's taken me through the pandemic um, to kind of to really come to fruition with what I do. And it's funny because on my bio, usually it talks about my tagline, which is teaching people how to invest, live, work, and play across borders, which is truly what I do. So I think that it was having my son when business was really quiet at the beginning of COVID. Nobody was doing anything across borders. Nobody was doing anything anywhere. Thank God that I had my real estate license and I had joined the XP, but my son was trying to balance homeschooling with me trying to balance working from home, and just like constantly getting texts and messages from the teachers and feeling like torn. I didn't know what to do. It was a very, very challenging time. I had 3 therapists helping us. And honestly, how we got through that, it's a true miracle. So I honestly, anybody that doesn't have spirituality, if they would have found it then, either that or they would have been jumping in the ocean, which is,
Right.
so one of the two was going to happen.
Right. But I mean, listen, of course we can always do better. And of course we can always strive to get, more award and more recognition. But it sounds like you're making it work, because you do have a successful business and you have your son and you are a single mom. And it sounds like you're making it work. So I would love for you to share maybe at least one advice.
Sure.
With all the single moms that are listening to us. My kids are older now, 20, 27, 26, so I don't have to babysit them. They have their own lives.
Yeah.
And I didn't have Corona when they were younger, so I cannot relate to that.
It's bad for these kids. It's terrible, especially being an only child, stuck at home. Thank goodness they have COVID pups. I have one of them here and a 14-year-old dog. And I think that the tip that I would share is to, and I'm still learning this myself, but to look after yourself first. And it's funny because in the past little bit, especially having just been through COVID, I realized, like, I was been watching this show on Netflix, and the woman is learning this too. It's like when you go on an airplane, you have to put the mask on yourself first, right? And as moms, we don't instinctively do that. We think about our kids first. A couple of weeks ago, I bought a Gucci bag. Okay. And this was a big deal for me, not because of the price tag or whatever. The fact is, I've never even carried the darn thing. It's still in the little sleeve. But it was something I needed to do for me, because it was nothing to do with my son. So it's funny, the other day, we were walking through the mall, and we haven't walked through the mall in a long time, but I wanted to go. They have a great falafel place, believe it or not, at the food court. So I wanted to go. So we walked through the mall together, and it's a boy, so he's not exactly excited, but we saw the Gucci store. He's like, "Mommy, keep walking, keep walking." I don't want you to spend $10,000 in there. I didn't spend $10,000. Well, whatever it was a lot of money. But I felt that it was really important for him to understand, especially as a guy who will eventually be, dating, that it's important that we as women look after ourselves first. And during this whole COVID thing, with me not being able to do the regular stuff for him and manage the house as I usually do and have my cleaning person and all of that, I think that we both learned a little bit about how to be more respectful to each other. And that was important also. And just, him realizing mommy can't look after you if she's not well. Right?
Yep. I love that. I think it's such a great lesson, really, I mean, it's the same in entrepreneurship, right?
Yes.
We as business owners, if we don't take care of ourselves, if we don't eat like we need to, if we don't sleep like we need to, if we don't have our routines, it doesn't work, right? So I think it's a great lesson. And I know that you're also speaking as an inspired speaker on self-growth and personal development. So how do you combine? Because investment sounds like, don't take it the wrong way, but it sounds like a very dry topic. Very
dry. I agree.
Right?
Being a lawyer can be dry. There's a lot of very dry lawyers out there.
Exactly. So how do you make it more human-centered and more centered around personal growth?
Well, first of all, I think that in investing, an abundance mindset dictates success. If you have a lack mindset, it doesn't matter how much investing you do, you're never going to get where you want to go. So you have to twist or bring the mindset piece the heart-centered piece, the focus on that into speaking, into providing services. My clients, for the most part, not all of them, know that I am committed to them. I put their needs sometimes ahead of mine, but I am committed to them. And when they need me, or they have a deadline, or they have a concern, that's what I do for them. So I am not just a lawyer providing a service, or a business plan, or a business consultant, or whatever. I am that holistic person that's focused on, okay, how do we take that heart-centered approach, that mindset of abundance, into what we're doing? Because if we don't, we're going to fail.
Yeah, I love that. I love that because I always say it's always about how you do things and not what you do, right? And so it's not doing investment or being a lawyer, it's how you are a lawyer, how you talking about investment. So I love that. I think it's really important for people to know that about you. And I know you speak about your clients, and we've said in your bio, but I would love for you to give us concrete examples of what type of clients come to you and what do they need and how do you help them from that heart-centered aspect.
Well, let's talk about a few Israeli clients.
Oh,
a lot of your listeners are in Israel, and Israeli clients know I have the name. The name gets me pretty far.
You have to remind everyone.
Yep, that's my name. I didn't change my name. Never would change that name. That's my name.
I'm not sure we said where you're from. We have to remind everyone where you're located. Sure.
Well, I'm actually originally from Toronto, but I live in South Florida. But my heart is always in Israel, and I would be there now, but for this. I'm not Israeli, so I'm not allowed to come with my son. So that's why I usually summer there. And I have very dear friends who's actually a realtor, one of my dear friends in Modi'in. We have several friends that live in the Modi'in area, and Netanya and Yerushalayim, and you name it. Anyway, the point is that so a typical client for me is, let's talk Israelis, for example. Israeli comes to me and says, Lauren, I have one right now. They're actually a lender. They've developed an AI product for lending to foreign nationals investing in the U.S. Super, super people. And they're actually going to be sponsoring my podcast. So the principal wants to get a visa. And he wants to be in the U.S., but go back and forth, not move to the U.S. So I am not trying to take people out of Israel. I want to make that clear. But I'm trying to give business owners options so that you can build your business, because we all know Israel is a small economy, right? You can't necessarily build a significant business just focused on the Israeli economy alone. So let's be realistic. You have to come to North America, Canada and the US, both of which I'm licensed in. We figure out a strategy to figure out how to set up your business and continue the cross-border or cross-pond or cross the world trade or investment. And get your visa and make sure that you structure things properly. You may want to invest in real estate. Let's figure out how that fits in. You may be a real estate investor already who wants to build your portfolio here in the US, and I have connections all over the country. And then we create a strategy to achieve your short-term goals and your long-term goals. Short-term might be get the visa. Long-term might be continue to do business and grow globally. Grow and grow globally. And really, that's what the important thing is. You may not just want to go into the US, maybe Canada, maybe England, maybe Australia, maybe South America. Let's figure that all out and then implement a strategy to achieve your goals. So that's the situation.
That's very interesting. So basically, a business owner who wants to expand on a global level and wants to look for new markets, and as probably are going to face legal issues or business, how to settle their business or how to be allowed to sell in the different countries. So you're helping everyone. I mean, those people, you're helping them to go through that process. Is that what you're saying?
The whole process. It's very holistic. It's a one-stop shop. You come to me and you don't have to think. You also, my signature program is called How to Immigrate Through Real Estate. And a lot of Israelis love that because they love real estate. So pretty much anybody. So I'm Canadian. They call me the Canadian Whisperer. I work with lots and lots of Canadians. I actually met one at an Israeli networking thing the other day. She's Israeli, Canadian, who's a lawyer. Probably you know her. I won't mention her name, and we're going to do some work together. So lots of exciting stuff going on, especially now, because people are realizing or have realized through COVID that the world is very small. And as much fear as there is in the world, there's also opportunity. And we have to, like it says in my book, Finding Your Silver Lining in the Business Immigration Process, or my nonprofit, we have to turn that negative, the whole pandemic, into a positive, opening up global doors, because it really has done that.
It is. And you're quoting your nonprofit and finding your silver lining. So I would love for you to also tell us more about this nonprofit. How did it start? What is the idea behind it? And how is it really aligned with what you do in your business?
So I started my nonprofit, I think in 2018 is when I got the designation. I've started many nonprofits for others. So if you are interested, feel free. I'd love to help you. And the nonprofit was set up with the mission of helping struggling single moms and mompreneurs to find their way in this world, find their silver lining. Because at the end of the day, they are kind of an overlooked, especially single moms. You know, they need additional, you know this, Natalie, they need additional resources. And often it's like, we don't have a daycare in our home. We don't, and I think that there was a need. So like developing programs and opportunities for single moms and people that are looking to find answers. So providing services to those that maybe can't afford it or didn't think about options, opening doors for them, not just domestically, but also internationally.
Wow. So you're basically helping single moms. Is it for free or is it for a...
No, you can charge. So the beauty of a nonprofit is that you can charge for your services, but it's not necessarily the end user that pays, because you have different ways of creating income. Like, for example, all the sales of my book, the money goes to the nonprofit that funds some of the programming, right? So the recipients can get grants and opportunities to access the services as well.
That's really interesting. And so because you know how to do it for your clients, you know how to do it for yourself, obviously. And so you open that. So that raises a question that I've heard many clients ask me about whether to choose to open a nonprofit or to go in the route of the social business direction. I'm not sure if you're familiar. I mean, what would you know what would be the difference? I'm sure that's part of your expertise. Yeah. What is the difference between opening a nonprofit? Because a lot of the people that are in my community are purpose-driven entrepreneurs, and they have businesses that, yes, they charge money, but they have a big aspect of they want to have an impact, they want to contribute. And so sometimes the line between a nonprofit and a business is very gray area. Yeah. And so they think about, maybe I should open a nonprofit, maybe I should stay. But I know there's this third direction of the social business. I don't know enough about it, but that would be interesting to hear your expertise on that.
So I will tell you that the main distinction is a nonprofit, once it receives designation from the IRS here in the US, is an actual, you're allowed to accept donations and to offer donation receipts. You can't do that through other entities. So there's a couple of steps in setting up a nonprofit that very few people or very few business owners understand. You can't just, like in Florida, we'll use Florida because a lot of people want to set up businesses in Florida from all over the world, right? I'm in a very desirable location 99% of the time. So they set up their nonprofit entity through the corporation's service, right? That does not give you any designation. That's just a company, like your social entrepreneurship company or your C Corp or whatever. So you set that up as an entity, but then you have to still apply to the IRS for designation. Now, there are other designations available, but they're not necessarily all donation driven, and they can't all necessarily issue donation receipts. So you open doors to different opportunities by setting up an actual not-for-profit. The other advantage is that you're not, it's a tax exempt entity, whereas most are not. So, and each state has different rules for this as well.
I
Hope
see.
that answers.
So, but is this something that you see more of a trend of more people wanting to open a social business or a nonprofit or wanting to contribute? Or is it only me because I'm surrounded with purpose-driven entrepreneurs? So I have an impression like this, that this is a big trend. Or do you see that also in your schools?
Yeah, I think that more and more entrepreneurs are purpose-driven, but they also don't understand that with a nonprofit you can still make money. The
Right.
main distinction between a nonprofit and a for-profit is that with a nonprofit you don't get dividends. You're not
Right.
an owner.
Right.
Okay, so you can earn income. You can be paid, like look at the United Way or the Jewish Federation. Their CEOs make a lot of money, 6 figures, 7 figures, whatever. That doesn't forestall that. Setting up a nonprofit allows you to have that significant income as a director or an executive director or whatever. But you don't get to take a portion of the profits. Not for profit means the profits go back.
It's reinvested. Right.
Okay, so that's a very important thing that most people don't understand, because they think, oh, we can't make money. That's not true, because otherwise these not-for-profits would not be existing. The Cancer Society, the ALS Association, I just did something for my birthday. I lost my dad to ALS almost 8 years ago, and I just posted today that that's what I'm going to do, is raise money for ALS for my birthday. So, but these companies, these are big organizations, okay? They are earning income.
They have hundreds of employees, and they're like corporate. They're like corporates. Like,
exactly.
Right.
It's just a different way of treating the actual profits. Now, if you want a visa, ordinarily you're not going to get a visa through a nonprofit, because you're not an owner. So you have to be an owner in order to get certain visas. So that's a little bit challenging when you're going global, but it's a great way to get a lot of exposure and press and grant money to have a social impact.
Of course. And because this is the Jewish Women Entrepreneurs podcast, I always like to ask our guests, no matter what expertise they come from, if they observe a difference of behavior or a difference of ways of managing their business between women and men. I mean, I'm sure you have I'm sure you have both men and women clients. Yes. And because this is also a trend, and this is also a movement, which is what we're trying to build here, right? A Jewish Women Entrepreneurs movement, so that we can support each other, we can network, we can really do business the feminine way. But I would love to hear your take on when you have clients that are men or clients that are women, or even men that are more in the feminine dimension or women that are more from the masculine dimension. What differences you observe, and what can you tell us about that?
So the first most important distinction that I see is about relationships.
Okay.
So I see most men that run businesses, or most of my male clients, are much less relationship driven than women. I build my business around relationships. They build their relationships around business.
Interesting.
That's what I see. That the business comes first for them, and the relationship comes first for us. Now, obviously, this is a generalization, but for me, it's always that. It's always that. I don't go in for the kill. Like, I don't meet somebody on LinkedIn and say, oh, hey, you want to learn about this? No, I'm like, hey, tell me about your business. I start following them. We get to know each other. And as a result, I have a lot of success on LinkedIn. Same with Facebook. But it's not going to work for everybody. And they're also going to know if you're full of you know what. Because a lot of people, look, I have virtual assistants. They're doing outreach on LinkedIn all the time. But when there's some kind of query or something that requires my attention, then I come in on it, because it's not just a generic response or a canned answer or a canned outreach. It has to be sincere. One thing I remember when I was thinking of making Aliyah a few years ago, and I went to Nefesh B'Nefesh in Jerusalem, is the woman, I can't remember which one, but she was in charge of outreach. I can't remember her name now, but anyway, she said to me, and I'll never forget this, she goes, I said, sometimes and this was before Zoom was everything and all the podcasts and all that, it was like people actually met in person. And I remember her saying to me, authenticity is the key. And I'd rather see you come on without your makeup and hair done. So unfortunately, I'm not being authentic today because I had my hair done. But anyway,
you are being beautifully authentic. That's what you are.
But she said that Israelis especially, and I think this is true of Canadians and, maybe, no offense, maybe not as much Americans, because Americans are used to seeing people with a little bit of below, like, come on, a little bit like dressed up.
Right.
And I think that women, when you're reaching out to women, especially, want that authenticity, that connection is the real thing that draws them together. It's not, what can you sell me or how can you educate me, until they know that you have their back.
Right. That's the trust. That's the foundation. Right. Yeah. That's the foundation of the relationship. I love that. And I'm very impressed that this woman from, in an Aliyah context, because usually the Aliyah context is very logistics, right? Where do you find a house? Where do you find this? Where do you find that? So I'm very impressed, probably because of the questions that you asked, that you got such a holistic reply.
Well, I'll be honest, at the time I was looking at Aliyah and also looking because I had a division of my company called Israeli Innovation Bridge. And it was all about helping Israeli companies to expand into North America. So we were going to do a series of webinars for the people looking to make Aliyah, and also the people that were already, the new Olim and so on, to help them to get access to the North American markets. And so it came up in that context. But I just always remember that message that, I don't put on a lot of makeup. I don't believe in it. And also I don't have time for it. So I'm happy I put on my mascara, a little bit of cover up, and I look, half decent. And if they don't want to work with me because I'm not whatever, that's okay. I'm me. Right. And at the end of the day, you're going to know who I am once you start working with me, because I have a very intimate relationship with most of my clients.
Wow, interesting. And so one last question before we unfortunately have to end this episode, which is fascinating to talk with you, is I know you have a global vision, right? You're looking at the world from a very different perspective because you're working with people from different countries. And so what are you seeing more in terms of the trend or the movements? Are you seeing more people from Israel wanting to invest, like you said, because Israel is a small economy and a small target market, investing more in North America? Or are you seeing more Jewish Americans or North American wanting to develop something with Israel because they're planning either their Aliyah or they want a connection with Israel? What direction do you see more happening?
So it's interesting that you asked this today, because tomorrow I'm going live with Mayor Glusberg, who happens to be do you know Mayor by chance? He's very known in Israel. So here's a funny story. I'll try to give it to you quick. So Mayor is the broker of record for EXP Israel. My real estate brokerage, cloud-based real estate brokerage, expanded and opened in Israel about a month ago, and Mayor is the broker of record. Funny story, Mayor spent most of his formative years living in Toronto. So a few weeks ago, when I went to Toronto, he happened to be going to Toronto to pick up his kids at sleepover camp. So we met in person, since I'm not able to come to Israel right now. Anyway, the point of that is it's both ways. And I think that the really important thing to understand is that there is no limitation. Borders are not a limitation on investment. Investing across borders is the name of my podcast. And that's because I really believe that people can invest well beyond their borders, not just within North America, not just Canada, Israel, or US, Israel, but all around the world. Once you have a strategy for that, you can expand your business all around the world, but don't just expand it because it looks sexy or fun, because it ain't easy. But you have to have that strategy, and you have to implement the strategy strategically, or you will fail. And not only will you hit walls, but tax walls and all kinds of financial challenges and personal challenges. And don't just avoid it. Get the strategy and do it right.
But you know what I want to say is, when I hear you talk like that, is even if you're not going cross-border, if you don't have a strategy, you will fail.
That's 100% true.
So even more so if you're taking more risks and you're confronting with a culture that you don't know and you have rules and laws that you're not familiar with, and so you're just exponentially have more chance of failing without a strategy. But really, not having a strategy is a recipe for failure
Always.
wherever you are.
That's so true, Natalie. It's so true. But at the end of the day, the haphazardly doing anything is always going to be a recipe for failure. As Benjamin Franklin said, a failure to plan is a plan to fail. And it's true.
Ooh, I like that. Nice. Very good. Well, thank you so much. I think we will end this amazing episode with this inspiring quote. I was very happy to hear from your perspective. And I think you're right. I think COVID did make the world a smaller place, even though we can less travel. But all of a sudden, we're on Zoom with people from all over the world. So thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your experience with us and inspiring us.
Thank you.
I'll be happy to welcome you again as soon as you have other great things to share with us.
Well, I'll tell you what, I will look forward to meeting you in person. Israel, hopefully, maybe even this year, you never know. So stay tuned.
The Jerusalem conference happening in January. So we're so happy to have you there and to see you in person and to give you a big hug. That's what I'm missing. I'm missing the hugs. That's 100%.
It's been a pleasure. Have a lovely day, Litrot, and shalom, everybody. Take good care. Oh, and please have a safe and healthy New Year.
Yes, thank you for reminding me. Yes, Shana Tova to everyone.
Shana Tova.
We'll
Absolutely. I can't believe it's almost here so early.
I know. We'll have another episode before Rosh Hashanah next Sunday, but we can definitely already wish everyone a Shana Tova. Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you again. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.